This is the Sports Authority on Local 12.
Well, the hour of the NFL regular season is growing later, and the Bengals' chances of making the postseason just keep getting bigger and bigger. Chris Rankel, Richard Skinner here on the Sports Authority. Skinny, we're almost to the end. 2 more games to go, and a chance for the Bengals today to put a real stamp on the AFC North against the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one that you've kind of said it's a changing of the guard. And we can talk all about all the injuries and the COVID issues, and they're real. There's no question that it affected Baltimore on both sides of the ball today. But, the last 3 meetings with Pittsburgh, one of them with Pittsburgh and 2 with Baltimore, you've scored 41, 41, and 41. That's a little bit of a changing of the guard because that just does not happen. They haven't swept them since 2009, both of them in the same season. So today was big.
It was big, and a big day for Joe Burrow. Because the AFC North is the way that it is, you thought that maybe a win like this, you sweep the Ravens, it clinches the division and clinches a playoff spot.
Not hardly.
No, not even close. Every team in the division is still technically alive, and really every team in the division has a chance to win this thing in the final two weeks. It's as close as I can ever remember it being.
Yeah, now the Bengals also have a scenario next week where they can clinch with a win. They haven't done so yet, and you're right, the Browns are actually still alive because the Browns are the only one that actually have a tiebreaker advantage possibility over the Bengals. Bengals lose, Browns win next week. It sets up a showdown possibly in Cleveland that last week that if they finish with the same record, which would then be conceivably possible, the Browns would have swept the Bengals. So as goofy as it sounds, the Browns look dead in the water, and yet they're not.
That's just the way the AFC is. The whole conference, everybody pretty much is still alive except for Jacksonville. We won't get to that. But Joe Burrow, a career day through the air, 525, a new record. As there you see a single-game record. He beats Boomer Esiason's 1990 record against the LA Rams of 447. He was unstoppable, and it looked like exactly who we thought we were going to get when he was submitted as the number 1 overall pick.
There was a couple of jokes running around today. Listen, we got to take the Baltimore thing with a grain of salt, right? But the couple of people at the same time said this looks like LSU versus Vandy. I mean, that's kind of what it looked like. Joe Burrow vintage LSU taking on Vanderbilt. It looked like that much of a mismatch. He was sharp from Jump Street all day long. Did throw the interception that was called back, but I think it was called back because he threw it with a guy getting held, and hence that's why that he looked outstanding. And you should listen. When you're playing against 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th cornerbacks, you should, but you shouldn't apologize for that either. Listen, to the NFL, there's no apologies. Go win games. I mean, they're getting paid too. These guys are getting their money, they're getting their game checks. I don't think you should have to apologize. You can argue, should they have been thrown in to get to the 500 yards? Maybe not, but, I don't think I feel all that bad about it either. I'm kind of with them on that.
Now, Joe Burrow, in perfect Joe Burrow fashion, asked about the record-setting performance. Didn't really put much into it after the game.
I really don't think about the yards too much. I mean, I'm just as happy throwing for 130 yards against the Raiders and going out and winning the game. So whatever it takes to win the game. Today it took throwing for 525 yards, and then some games it takes throwing for 100 yards and being smart with the football.
It's just another day at the office for him.
I would back him up a little bit on that because Patrick Queen, who played with him at LSU, said the same thing. He was asked about Joe throwing for all those yards. What do you think he thought of that? And he said, I think he probably cared more about winning the game. And I do think that sometimes we just laugh at stuff like that and go, oh, listen, I do think it meant something to set a team record and throw for 500 yards. I mean, guys don't do that in the league very often. So I do think it meant something. But I do believe for him it is. If it takes me 138 yards passing to win a game and we win, great. If it takes me to have 500 and we win, great. I think that's still what he's all about. I think that's what endears him to his teammates.
I think we got to put this into context because we have mentioned the COVID issues that the Ravens had. Their secondary absolutely decimated. They lost another start in this one in Anthony Averett, who was the last one that was there. How much do you put into this being just a Bengals team hitting at the right time, they're clicking at the right time versus a decimated Ravens team that just is free falling?
I think there's a little bit of that. Now, the Ravens played a ton of zone, which they don't do. They don't like to do it. Don Martindale, the defensive coordinator, likes to blitz and likes to come after the quarterback. We remember last year in Baltimore, he knocked Joe Burrow around, and Joe Burrow didn't do much offensively, and the Bengals actually took a timeout late to kick a field goal, which stuck in their craw. Feels like we're going back and forth here with kind of, hey, you did this to us, so we'll do this to you. The game last year that Zach mentioned, you did this to us, now we did this to you. I think this is going to go back and forth for a while. Listen, the other thing I would say is Joe Burrow is capable of these days, in my opinion. Maybe not the 500, but we've seen him throw for 40. He threw for 416 against Baltimore earlier this year when they were pretty healthy on defense. And they did try to play man-to-man against him. I think today also unlocked the fact that you had T. Higgins go off for a big day and Tyler Boyd having a 68-yard touchdown that we saw. Jamar Chase go over 100. Joe Mixon, you mentioned, had 137, I believe, yards from scrimmage, both rushing and receiving. Today was that day where you go, boy, this is what this offense could be. And I know, again, what Baltimore had, but you saw that all these weapons spread around. This is what they have a chance to be, and I think they're still just scratching the surface with it.
It sets up a pretty big and fun, entertaining matchup at Paul Brown Stadium next week.